Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's CC-Webinar.live keynote and panel discussion session, and thank you for joining. We would also like to thank our sponsor for supporting today's CC-Webinar.live session. Now, I would like to pass on the microphone to moderator to introduce the keynote speaker and later on to moderate the session. For audience virtually, if you have any questions, please do use the chat box option throughout the session. That's all from my side, and now over to our moderator.
Thank you very much, Laura, for the introduction, and a very warm welcome also from my side. My name is Csaba Füzesi, Head of Products at Telecom Global Carrier, and I'm going to be the moderator of this knowledge sharing session today. Before we would set the stage, let's start with a quick introduction. First of all, it's my pleasure to welcome Sunil Joshi from EE in the UK. Sunil, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So my name is Sunil Joshi. I work for EE, which is now part of British Telecom in the UK, one of the biggest operators in the UK. So I look after the roaming products and the roaming relationship within the wholesale space.
Thank you, Sunil. I'm really glad to have you here. Our next panelist, I'm delighted to announce, is Mark Kellerhus from T-Mobile US. Mark, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you all for having me. I'm the Director for IoT Roaming and Global IoT Connectivity at T-Mobile, responsible to make sure that all of the IT roaming goes smooth for all of our customers.
Thank you, Mark. Last but not least, let me welcome Francesco Votta. Francesco, it's your turn now.
Hello, everybody. Here is Francesco Votta. I'm a product manager in Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier, responsible for 5G roaming enablement.
The focus of the webinar will be on the challenges, opportunities, and solutions in 5G roaming. Looking at the agenda, and if you go to the next screen, every panelist will have 10 minutes presentation, which will be followed by a Q&A session. Let me remind you, especially in the audience, that if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to use the chat box function so we can integrate these questions either into the panel presentations or cover them later in the Q&A session. Setting the stage and going to the next slide, I would like to give you a high-level overview with regards to the 5G deployments around the world. Until now, 162 mobile operators in 68 countries have launched commercial 5G services. Important to note that most of these deployments were 5G non-standalone networks, which means that mainly the radio access network was upgraded, not the mobile core. Most of these launches were in Europe and in the Asia-Pacific region. If you look at mobile operators who also invested into 5G standalone architectures, we can say that the situation is slightly different. Here, the Asia-Pacific and the North American regions are taking the lead. And as we can see on the shared map, very few operators really have that capability. Most of them are either in the launch or in the test phase. To give some credit to Mark, the first operator who really announced the nationwide 5G standalone network in the world was T-Mobile US. So on the one hand, that's definitely a great asset for DT. And I'm really glad that Mark could represent T-Mobile US today. Looking at the EE, I think EE was also an early mover in the UK. They were the first to announce a 5G non-standalone network, but I'm sure Sunil will share more insights there. Looking at the map and looking at the high-level situation, we can easily conclude that 5G standalone deployments are in relatively early stages. But considering the large number of trials, planned deployments, and also the closure plans of the legacy mobile technologies, this is the right time to talk about 5G roaming deployments. I'm happy to give the floor to Sunil so he can share with us the 5G experiences and challenges at EE. He is going to be the first presenter.
Sure. Thank you, Saba. Thank you very much. And once again, welcome everybody. And thank you for joining me today. It's my pleasure to be invited by Deutsche Telekom and also to be pleasure with you all sharing my experience, my views on the 5G. So I've given my quick introduction. So I am from EE/BT, once again into the roaming space, looking after the roaming products and making sure of the footprint and the roaming relations are in right place. So with that, if I ask Francisco to move on to the next slide, thank you. So here, this is a slide to me which kind of encompasses kind of a road to 5G SA. Yes, we are here to talk about 5G SA, but the road is a little bit bumpy to my knowledge, to my understanding. So to begin with, on the left-hand side, so we got 2G, 3G decommissioning. A number of operators are announcing their sunset. So as a result, this is going to create two distinct problems for operators. One is the roaming continuity on the outbound side, and reduced inbound traffic, leading to the visited inbound revenue risk. So the answer is very simple. But again, if you look at the scale of the 2G, 3G decommissioning, it is kind of wide. Pretty much most of the operators are in a position, either they have started or at least they've got plans. And we have been tracking these figures for a long time now. And I can tell you that COVID hasn't had much of an impact on this decommissioning plans from the MNOs or the operators. So they are pretty solid. Now, with the problems I mentioned earlier, the answer is pretty simple. So operators really have to move to VoLTE. So the answer is simple, but again, I don't think the deployment or getting there is any simpler. So the challenges for operators, one is they need to build the VoLTE footprint. Now you might say, yes, that might be quite simple. So, but to give you the scale of the problem, the footprint that we have today is a work of 25 years. Now we have to pretty much build the footprint, catching up with all the other operators' decommissioning plan. It's going to be a huge ask in itself. Now, secondly, there are other problems which are compounded to this. Now, let's say if we invest the time and efforts, we can do that, but there are other problems. Operator readiness. Now, there are a number of reasons why there is a slowness or sluggishness in operators being ready to support the VoLTE roaming. One is the primary reason, a couple of things is the legal interception requirement within EU, which is kind of slowed down the deployment of VoLTE roaming. And secondly, some of the regulatory obligations around emergency calls, so which is caused a little bit of slowness in this adoption. So then comes the device problem itself. Now, there are approximately about 2,000 devices, VoLTE roaming devices today, and on a yearly basis, there are about 300 devices which are being rolled out. So there is a problem in itself. There is no global support of VoLTE roaming with those devices. Now, the reason being is there are a few reasons. One is the OEMs have their own onboard approved list of MNC, MCC, and they disable the VoLTE roaming for the untrusted network, i.e. in other words, who are not on this onboarded approved list. Secondly, what happens is this causes problems to the smaller operators. Now, on top of this, there are OEMs blocking of VoLTE roaming, so which has been done due to historical reasons, but the issues are still around. So this is all in all compounding the problems. And on top of that, we also have what is called as a regional blocking of the VoLTE roaming by these OEMs. Now, for example, where a device is targeted for a Europe region, doesn't work in, let's say, North America. So we have seen these issues, and as a result, it is pegging back operators' ambition to scale the VoLTE roaming to overcome the 2G, 3G decom issues. So now in the middle of all this, we are also expecting some sort of roaming fragmentation between IMS and non-IMS network. Not pretty much everybody is moving from 2G, 3G to VoLTE roaming. So there is going to be a gap in this roaming market, which is going to create this fragmentation in the industry as we go along. Now, on top of that, any transformation will have to go through hiccups and issues. As a result, there will be some customer experience issues during this transition. So that is just about to give you an idea of what the issues are around the VoLTE. So while this is all happening, while operators are juggling with these challenges, M2M permanent roaming is itself is in transition. Now, what I mean by transition is, currently the M2M is based on 2G, 3G. Now, slowly operators are moving to deploying the LPWA technologies like the narrowband IoT and LTE-M. Now, once again, it calls for a footprint expansion, deployment of scaling their footprint. Not only scaling their footprint, they also need to deploy a new the new exchange of CDR methodology called as BCE, billing for charging excellence, which kind of replaces the tap system. And all in all, I think that is another small piece of transition the operators are into. And then not finally, but just before 5G SA comes, so we have operators are also trying to deploy or scale their 5G non-standard. Now, there are issues once again around it. While we want to kind of utilize the benefits of eMBB, the higher speed for the customers, there are issues. For example, the device compatibility. Now, we all know that the 3GPP has approved about 36 spectrum bands in 5G in the sub 1 gigahertz, 1 to 6 gigahertz, and also about 24 gigahertz, which is called as a millimeter wave. So there is that incompatibility. So all in all, there are issues for operators in catching up with the VoLTE, making sure your M2M business is in the right place, also trying to catch up with the new technology, actually even before you get around to 5G SA. Now, coming on to 5G SA, from the roaming perspective, one of the things we want to migrate that VoLTE, voice over LTE or 4G, to voice over new radio. Now that again, once again, calls for scaling your footprint. Now, this is the big burden because in all, you can see the theme there with the VoLTE roaming, with the LPWA technologies, with the 5G and SA, there is a lot of catching up on the footprint. Without the footprint, we can't really deliver these capabilities to the customers. And then coming to 5G SA, to my knowledge, I think the roaming use cases yet to be fully understood. We understand the opportunities, but we really need to understand what are the real use cases for roaming. And then there are security concerns. I do have one slide to talk on the security. I'll come to that. And in the meantime, there is still a debate about LBO versus home routing. Now, if you want to really utilize the capability of 5G, it's one of the prominent feature of 5G is a low latency. The low latency can only be achieved using LBO, but in roaming world, we have never used that one before. And then once again, the device compatibilities are there to look at, and also the charging model. With the good understanding of the use cases comes the charging model, clarity on the charging model. So with that, I'd just like to move to the next slide, quickly touching on the security concerns. So here's kind of what you can expect in the security management. So the first and second options are related to roaming hub or the IPX model. So these models are slightly contentious. The reason I say these are contentious is because there is a debate still going on within GSMA whether to use TLS and or Prince. So that contention, there are a few camps, so they're trying to. But again, the TLS or Prince, it can adopting both can complicate things a little bit. Now, the number 3 is basically bilateral. The number 3 is bilateral, where the home SEP will kind of use the TLS, hop by hop TLS, in order to establish the security end-to-end. And this is the simplest model, which will be mostly adopted, to my knowledge, by most of the operators. Of course, there will be roaming hub as well as the IPX also that can be used to expand your coverage. So number 3 is a bilateral arrangement, which is less contentious model for security. Technically, the home PLMNs or the home network SEP and the peer SEP will engage in a mutual TLS based on the end-to-end security for ensuring confidentiality, the integrity, authentication, and authorization. This is really the crux of it. And the third, the model third, what you're looking at, the keys are exchanged via the IR21, which is kind of slowly becoming clear that that is how this is going to go. So this is still to be an evolving picture, but I think we are slowly getting a good idea of how the security management will be in the 5G SA when we get around to that. So with that, in the next slides, I would like to go to show a kind of give a feel of what the opportunities are for consumers in the 5G SA space, as well as the enterprise vertical. Now, we all know that in 3GPP words, there are three prominent features what 5G SA is going to bring you. One is a higher speed, which they term it as an enhanced mobile broadband. And the second one is the ultra reliable low latency communication, which is URLLC. And the third one is the massive Internet of Things. Now, coming to the first segment, looking at the consumers. Now, consumers will remain the biggest beneficiaries of the 5G, experiencing the faster speeds, better coverage, and also they will benefit from the innovative services. Now, I'll just put one slide here from the analysis from Ericsson and Omidyar. So what it really says is 5G represents a 30% of growth opportunity by 2030, realized through dedicated efforts into service innovations. And as an essential component of this growth, service providers can generate direct revenues, which comes from 5G consumer use cases. Now, in addition to high speeds, what Ola mentioned, high speeds and broadband, this research also shows there are other opportunities like enhanced video, like we all heard about 4K, 8K, and now 360-degree videos, live sports streaming, which is now a possibility. But I wouldn't say it was not possible with 4G, but we have heard that your speeds are really, really reduced when you are in a dense area. So it is not quite there yet, 4G. Now, also with music and gaming, it is a possibility with a low latency. Then AR, VR, that is another thing, in-car entertainment. All these things are possible, or these are the new opportunities within consumer segments. So coming on to the next slide, which will be my last slide. I'm hoping I'm not taking too much of time, Sarah. So this is really my view of what 5G is. Now, this really slide shows the scale of opportunities. Hence, I feel 5G is very, very exciting. So on your left-hand side, you will see a number of sectors, several sectors, which is a huge target area for operators, demanding for private networks, also what is called as campus networks. These sectors, what they're doing is transforming the way they are producing their products. At the same time, they are producing a lot of data. Now, this data will be delivered, or the applications to manage those data will be delivered, what we have come to know as Industry 4.0 applications. So in my view, or what you see on the right-hand side are the various applications which will be met by 5G. And the number of, like you say, so right from healthcare to public safety, the IoT, the real-time supply chain, your inventory, whatnot, everything, quality control, remote expert support, everything is possible with the 5G, because it is possible really with 5G. Now, just a little bit on for Industry 4.0. Now, Industry 4.0, it is not a company. It is just an idea. Now, it is an idea which is so compelling that it is termed as a fourth industrial revolution that is driving the 5G SA demands and requirement. And it is expected to trigger a strong rise in 5G IoT sales from distinctive use cases beginning from 2023 to 24. So this really gives us the scale of the opportunities in enterprise segment, and also the reason why 5G is so exciting. So with that, I think I hand it back to Saba. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sunil, for your insights. We really appreciate them, and I think we will go into some of your topics in the Q&A session anyway. Following the agenda, let's jump into the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Mark, how do you see the experiences at T-Mobile US when it comes to 5G roaming?
Yes, thank you. And let's go to the next slide. And it is a great opportunity to talk to you all today and share the work that we have doing the last years. And we truly believe that our 5G network is a truly pivotal opportunity to deliver a transformational connected experience to everyone. And probably you will see many elements that Sunil did mention as well in my presentation, of course, to be expected. And I will try to go a little bit faster of those sides. So after years of planning and investing and building, we launched the country's first nationwide 5G network in December of 2019. We haven't slowed down since then. Our 5G network is still the largest by far. We're now covering 287 million people, more than 8,300 cities, and towns across 1.6 million square miles. When it comes to 5G though, especially in the US, you have to got layers. Low band, mid band, and high band. And that is what we call our layer cake, as you can see on the bottom left. Let's break that a little bit down. We have a low band 600 megahertz 5G layer. That's a firm base layer. And it travels far and wide to bring 5G speeds to more places across the US. Then we do have our mid-band 2.5 gigahertz layer, and we call it the tasty mid-cake layer. It covers a broad area with fast speeds, and that is where our sweet spot is. Then you have the high-band millimeter wave band, the flashy cake top layer, which has super fast but super limited data transmissions. It's great for small, dense city blocks, but doesn't travel far and gets blocked by things like trees, windows, and buildings. When we go to the next slide, I want to say that 5G is definitely more than that extra G. 5G will bring us the ability to support a massive number of connections at the same time on the same cell. And that is definitely needed. We already see many RFPs that request for a very high number of connections. And the natural development for the many use cases are smart meters, fleet management, all kind of tracking applications, especially in the logistics fields, and very upcoming smart agriculture in a country as the USA. 5G will give us the ability to support critical connections as well. It's lagging a little bit the massive connections category for us, but we see definitely many new requests coming in. And here you can think of the industrial applications, control and remote manufacturing that Sunil already mentioned as well, which are part of Industry 4.0, traffic, safety and control, remote training and support. Think as an example of an augmented reality headset that shows you how to repair a complex machine step by step. It just blows up the machine on your headset and you see exactly what screw you have to turn to decommission that machine and repair it. And of course, we all know the many examples within healthcare. Of course, 5G will bring us mobile broadband as well. Yeah, that's perhaps a little bit more that extra G. And we can see many examples on that case as on the screen as well. And one of the things that we are deploying in the US is the home internet. We are rolling out a no contract, high-speed internet access throughout the US, including rural America, for both T-Mobile and non-T-Mobile customers. Because especially in those rural areas, you see that the speed of the internet is often very low, and most cases people can only choose for one vendor, and we are coming in to bring diversity there. When we go to the next slide, it is a little bit what is 5G future bringing. Yeah, so many of those elements here on the screen you can do today with 4G. Perhaps some of them you already could do with 3G. Yeah, but what is 5G bringing into the future? Yeah, and instead of talking through this slide point by point, I want to give you 2 examples of what we are doing today in the US on this field. First, one of the things is a platform for 5G drone innovation. And the key for drone services to become ubiquitous is having a highly reliable, responsive, broad coverage, standalone 5G network to manage all of that traffic. And whether it's a new pair of jeans that your teen want to order and want to be brought towards the street, perhaps a medical supply is a more better example where a doctor needs some medicine in rural America and he can't get hold of it in time. Yeah, and to do that, you need to maintain a constant and reliable 5G connection from the warehouse to the customer. That whole line of sight have to be covered. This level of 5G network reliability and coverage is exactly what we are building. Low latency is key to drone development, and it will enable quick coordination of drones in the air and the ability for traffic management systems to approach real-time awareness of where that drone is exactly and where the obstacles can be. Standalone 5G is for us that foundation for low latency, ultra reliable applications. And our engineers have already seen in standalone areas where we have 5G standalone, a 40% improvement in latency during our testing that we did. Second project I want to touch on is a food resiliency project. February of last year, we announced a collaboration between a county in the US and the 5G Open Innovation Lab that we have, and our partners create a state-of-art agriculture technology field lab at 2 farms in rural Washington. And that is called the Food Resilience Project. Together with the farmers, distributors, and technology companies, we are transforming the agriculture industry there to improve that food resilience. We are building there a network that serves all Americans, including those rural farmers, to give them the tools that they need to transform their business. And for farmers specifically, that means producing more food using fewer resources, less water, less fertilizer, less pesticides. And that matters, of course, for the environment, but it matters as well for this very capital intensive industry with low margins. It is a very high risk industry and it's exposed to the whims of Mother Nature, but all those sensors combined with artificial intelligence can create those predictive models that dramatically reduce the risk and increase efficiency for those farms of all sizes, small to big. And those systems that monitor crops and soil conditions provide those farmers with the real-time data to quickly adjust their operations, better deploy the resources, and even run farming tasks remotely. So those modern farms, especially the 2 that we're working with, are highly connected farms and as a perfect field lab to see what is all vital for those farms to not to get left aligned. And that's where you see that our extended range 5G network will not just support use cases in airports, stadiums, and big cities, yeah, the first locations that you think of with 5G, but use cases that drive powerful transformation across America. And therefore, we as T-Mobile call it 5G for all, because it's built to reach everyone, including those living in rural America, driving the industries such as farming that are so vital for the industry. Let's go to the next slide. So Sunil already mentioned this a little bit as well. Sorry? Okay, no question. I thought there was a question. So, as already mentioned, we have a nationwide 5G footprint, both NSA and standalone. And of course, our partners are very interested to roam onto our network, which is great. And we happily provide their customers access to our network. So next to utilizing our DT colleagues signaling and premium IPX, we as T-Mobile have some requisites to be able to provide 5G roaming to our partners. Just like Sunil said as well, yeah, you first have to enable your own 5G roaming infrastructure and enable your 5G IMS core to support VoLTE. But second, we need VoLTE enabled roaming partners as well. And thirdly, we need our roaming partners to support the devices with the right bands. And I will come back to that later on the next slide. So looking to VoLTE, we unfortunately have to conclude that the industry is lagging on VoLTE roaming connectivity. And this is holding up the 5G launch a little bit, especially on our side, we experience it. We were very early ready, but we have now more than 300 plus operators in queue. Luckily, we have them in queue because it's coming now, but it would have been nicer when those 300 would have been divided over the last 2 years. So definitely we're catching up, but that VoLTE launch is definitely needed before you can make the next step. When we go to the next slide, it goes a little bit into device capabilities. And unfortunately, as an industry, we of course do not decide which spectrum with the bands belonging to it will be made available by the governments. And as being an operator in the USA, we have the advantage to cover a massive footprint, but we understand as well that our partners in Europe who are operating in a much more scattered area and have much more borders in a close vicinity, and device capability is even more important to them. It is already for us, yeah. And those band discussions that we are having with our roaming operators and the IoT use cases is very important. And it even became more important with 5G because the difference between those bands and the capabilities are so big. Yeah, when you look to band 71, which is our 600 megahertz band, it is a very stable broadband covering 250 plus million pops, and it's perfect for building penetration. But then when you look to band 261, which is the millimeter wave, where you want to go above the 1 gig speeds, yeah, occasionally, yeah, in stadiums to provide AR and VR experience. The difference is very big between those two bands, and it's very essential, yeah, for the specific use case to decide the right band and to make sure that those bands are in those devices. When we then go to the next slide, I end a little bit about the roaming arena that me and my team are mostly into. Yeah, and one of the things to support 5G and IoT roaming, we had to change our roaming contract, especially for the IoT side. Yeah, because we now have to address elements like longevity, guardrails, SLAs, yeah, all needed when supporting IoT customers that need to guarantee that their applications will work today, tomorrow, but even the further future. Yeah, when I have a metered water application and I put a meter in with a battery life for 10, 15 years, I don't want to exchange my broadband connection every 2 years. That's simply impossible. So all roaming contracts have to have that longevity as well. And just like Sunil mentioned, we started with BCE as well. It is that new standard that we need between the roaming operators, because it gives us way more flexibility to build each other and to support especially those use cases that are coming up with IoT and 5G. We supported our strategic customers as well with specific roaming contracts. So these are our strategic enterprise customers. And those enterprise customers will have specific use cases with need for cloudification, local breakouts. And now we have to have within the roaming team specialists that think IoT and are able to bring that to our roaming partners and to find solutions for them. So this all brings a big change to the roaming teams, but gives it another extra exciting impulse as well. So we as T-Mobile are happy to talk to any of you to see how we together can better our industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your presentation. It was really nice to see the status update and the challenges around VoLTE roaming and device compatibility. After getting these insights, let me turn to Francesco, who will help us to better understand how wholesale carriers can help the operator community to better prepare for the upcoming challenges in 5G roaming. Francesco, over to you.
Thank you, Csaba. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sunil, for all your insight. Okay, so in general, if we want to compare the introduction of 5G compared to the previous technologies, what we can really say is that 5G potentially has the potential to totally transform the telecommunication industry, because it is designed in all its aspects, being slicing or being edge or the new radio access. It is designed to connect in an adaptable way everything to everywhere. And in this sense also brings the concept of quality of service and quality of experience also for non-human use cases in the complete IoT world. We all know, okay, the GSMA triangle, what 5G stands for. So for the new broadband, for massive machine type communication, and ultra reliable and low latency communication. But our interpretation of the triangle as a roaming enablement partner is going into this direction. Because for us, 5G stands for quality of service. It stands for programmable and adaptable quality of service in terms of access, in terms of capacity, but also in terms of services that are offered and the security level that are offered. The same user, the same device could have a different quality of service in a different moment, in a different scenario. Also in a connected car scenario, you could have a different quality while driving compared to the moment you are parking. 5G also stands for absolutely for security. With this new protocol, 5G is not anymore, security is not anymore a topic of who pays for security, who requires security, but now it's really a business requirement. Because with 5G, security is brought to a total new level, and it brings operational complexity with it. And as Sunil was saying, there is a really vivid discussion within GSMA how to tackle this operational complexity and how to avoid at the end that a human error in handling key management could endanger the complete security that we are trying to introduce. So there is a huge activity, there is discussion, and the expectation for a moment in GSMA is to have a guidance by end of Q3, Q4 this year. 5G also stands for cloudification. Somehow it calls for the true cloud, because the cloud is now moving to the radio access network, is moving to the edge of the network. And operators are now triggered to deploy this new type of network infrastructure. They are triggered to open their network and to expose network functions. And this gives opens a lot of chances, because on one side, probably the biggest one is also that by opening, operator could also migrate from being a data pipe into a data source. For example, operator could just expose the information of the latency of a device. And in this way, the application, the service could use this information, for example, to adapt the frame rate in an augmented reality scenario. It also opens the chance to really reinvent partnership, because as as the cloud moves to the network, also the network moves to the cloud. So we could probably reinvent how we are introducing services for the for our subscribers, for our customers. It is a kind of a chance to have a greenfield scenario on reinventing partnership. If we stay into roaming, what we see is, okay, that there are several challenges that operators face. Some of them we have heard it already. Okay, most of them we already heard it from Mark and Sunil. We have all the challenges, for example, around VoLTE, around building this new coverage that, as soon as we're saying rightly, it has to compete with a coverage we have since 25 years. We have also to be aware that with 5G standalone, in general, we will have technology islands in terms of protocols, in terms of security technologies, in terms of ways those service and network function could be covered across the world at the end. The data is expected to explode due to 5G. We see it already in the deployment with 5G non-standalone launches, but there are researchers that state that the IoT data is expected to almost overtake the consumer data in 7 to 8 years from now. In addition, not to forget the fact that we have a software-driven network now, this openness that the operator can give is somehow enables an explosion of services that could be provided by the operator. And this explosion and fluctuation of service will be also matched by an explosion and fluctuation of billing scenarios that must be transported in these roaming deals, and also an explosion and different means to transport data across at the end, across all the roaming scenarios. And in fact, so we assume that now it is clear that LBO is not anymore a matter of if, but it's now just a matter of how and when. So how are we as roaming enablement supplier? So how are we aiming to support our operator to master these complexities? We want, okay, first of all, to deploy them with a cross-protocol signaling platform in order to enable them to have one single way to control all the roaming scenarios. We are also launching a cross-protocol security offering to support all the new scenarios that are part of the specification, so to and that are currently discussed in GSMA, without forgetting also the fact that we're not talking only about closing the door of let's say of a network, but we need to close also the windows. So we need to make sure that the same capabilities that are possible for in 5G roaming should be possible also for 4G roaming. And let's not forget also to provide consistencies between 5G standalone roaming and 5G non-standalone roaming. And for this reason, we are aiming to support also the DES functionalities. In terms of quality of service, okay, we are focusing a lot on the premium IPX activities, investing in our peering relationship in order to guarantee end-to-end quality of service and guarantee low latencies and guarantee an SLA to our customer also in the standard scenarios where there are multiple peering partners. But we are also investing heavily into the regional breakout solutions, because as soon as we're saying, until now, nobody ever implemented an LBO scenario in the roaming environment. But now with 5G standalone, it will be just a matter of how we do it. And our approach is to provide the regional breakout that is still in control of the home operator. And in this way to enable low latency, but still give control on the billing, on the also on the legal intercept, on the lawful intercept, and enable the operator to match all the needs that they have. We are also aiming to support Cloud Connect to help operator cloudify themselves, as Mark has said. So the roaming teams must be able to help all the roaming partners to deploy their service on the cloud. And here we are investing in our IPX technology in order to be directly connected to the major cloud providers. Plus, okay, we have all the standard roaming bus and so that the roaming bus are heavily impacted by the security. So there could be some security implication on which roaming bus could be provided. But in general, there will be for sure needs around, for example, how to do monitoring, or how to distinguish the different type of traffic in order also to support the different billing scenarios. In this sense, okay, so what our main message is to operators that we want to support you with some possible proof of concept. So we are already talking to operators, and we are looking for a further operator in order to, first of all, to investigate how the new signaling and security concept work together, working on a SAP solution or hosted SAP, supporting the TLS and prints. And here what we offer operator is a way to either test against our sandbox or via us to do the standard standalone roaming test via our hub. And even looking for other IPX provider in order to test a real end-to-end scenario. Additional POC that we are evaluating at the moment is, as I mentioned, the Cloud Connect. So the idea is to support operators that are moving their solution to the cloud and to be directly connected from our IPX network in order to avoid loopholes and also smooth this migration from the operators. And in addition, looking for a roaming value-added service POC, scouting which of the standard roaming bus are still applicable for 5G, but also focusing a lot, everything around MTM detection and reporting around all the M2M and IoT scenarios. And so our message is we are ready to support operators in this new 5G revolution.
Thank you very much, Francesco. Let's go into the Q&A section because we have a little bit more than 10 minutes left for that one. One of the questions that was appearing in the chat box is what are the most important use cases for 5G roaming? There were a couple of use cases mentioned in the previous presentations, but probably it was not 100% clear whether those are domestic or roaming use cases. Could we start with Mark? Mark, you had a slide about the different use cases and the test you are doing. What would you emphasize in terms of 5G roaming use cases?
I think that what would be very interesting, and now I'm thinking out of my own interest, that is ultra low latency cloudification use cases. That would be where my own interest is going out to. We see that already coming up in certain automotive RFPs, where cloudification is very important to provide that service to the consumer in the car, as close to where that car is moving. The whole communication between car to car, I think that is more a local element. But don't forget, the US is a very big domain, and even within the US, we need roaming. We can't connect every single corner of the country. Nobody can. So you still need each other. So there, how can you support those ultra low latency use cases with edge compute? That is where 5G roaming really starts to make sense. When I think about tracking, I can do tracking in principle with 3G. Where the tracking will have a problem if it is with massive number of devices at the same time. That's where I need 5G, but my latency I don't need.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question is to Sunil. How fast do you expect the commercial transition to 5G standalone to happen?
It's going to take some time. So we still have to cross the bridge of multi-roaming. Now 4G, while 5G is on us, 4G still has got a room to grow. So the roaming will be pretty much on multi-roaming. until you start seeing operators deploying non-standalone. From there on, migrating to standalone. Now, if you ask me, the tipping point here for 5G SA is different for different regions, but you will start seeing, we are already seeing now, we are already seeing the 5G SAs, and we will see more of those in this year and next year. But it is very much different for different regions.
Thank you, Sunil. There was also a connected question to this topic. Basically, not everyone was aware of the EU's legal interception regulation and the impact on VoLTE roaming deployment. Could you elaborate on that one quickly, Sunil, and then it will be a question for Mark as well.
Yeah, sure. So with VoLTE, now taking back 3, 4, 5 years back, I mean, this has been a very debatable topic within GSMA. So there are 2 ways of deploying VoLTE roaming. So one is the local breakout, and the second one, what we know it as S8HR architecture. Now, the local breakout is technically sound. It is perfect what operators want. However, it is technically very, very complex. The time to market is very complex. The interoperability, the interdependency between the device and the network was far too much. Nevertheless, S8HR was the answer. However, S8HR came up with its own set of problems. Now, one of the problems is the legal interception. Now, the legal interception is a regulatory requirement in most of the European countries. And what this is it's very much similar to the 2G, 3G, where the regulators would like to see, obviously, how to have legal intercepts on your voice channels. Now, suddenly turning this VoLTE into data, it doesn't make their job any easier, because they will have to go through all those different packets in order to get around to a specific call details. So that is causing, now it's called, it takes a lot of deep packet inspection. There are solutions, but the solutions are very tricky to deploy. So as a result, some of the countries that have got legal interception obligations, they weren't quite coming around to adopt the S8HR, which has caused this delays in operator adopting this VoLTE roaming S8HR architecture.
Thank you, Sunil. It's going to be the same question for Mark with one more extension, which is how much time operators will need to have full VoLTE roaming support in all regions, inbound and outbound, of course.
Wow. When I only knew, yeah, it is a very important element, especially because we are shutting down in the US, and not only us, everybody's shutting down 2G and 3G. So when you don't want to be out of voice service, you need to go to VoLTE. Yeah, so you will see shutdowns happening in 22. Latest by 23, you have to have VoLTE. So that is our end goal, and otherwise you don't have voice service anymore. When I listen to Sunil, you know, he is way more the specialist on VoLTE, etc. I just know with our roaming contracts, when we do roaming contracts inbound, yeah, encryption is not allowed on VoLTE. Yeah, and that is already a big discussion that we are having with our roaming partners, because their technical team says, yeah, we have to do encryption. We can't do without encryption, but our regulator in the US says you're not allowed to do encryption. And those little elements that look very simple discussion, but they bring you in a lot of discussions with that you didn't think about before, yeah, and where you're going into a much longer discussion with your roaming partner before you reach an agreement.
Thank you, Mark. Next question is coming back to 5G security. There were a couple of slides that were covering this new architectural security component. The question is SAP mandatory for 5G standalone roaming? And what do you think whether hosted SAP solutions by the carrier community will be requested by mobile operators?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So the security, the SEP provides a security in 5G SA. Now you can meet it in two different ways, maybe three different ways. One is operator can host their own SEP, and they do all the key management. And if you want, you can automate it, and you can obviously establish 5G SA relationship. And the second option is you can allow the roaming hubs or the IPX providers like yourselves to host it on your behalf and manage that complex security management. So there is a possibility. There are the only three ways of delivering the security management in 5G SA. And now the contentious point, what I mentioned earlier, was whether to use the TLS. I think for the model 3, operator to operator SEP interaction is defined that is going to be the TLS protocol. But however, the IPX stroke roaming hub model is still not decided whether it is going to be TLS or Prince or TLS and Prince. So the complexity will increase on the operators depending on which they go for. And the complexity is more if they adopt both TLS and Prince.
Thank you, Sunil.
I totally agree with what Sunil is saying. So this discussion is currently ongoing with the different players in the industry are proposing solutions. I assume that all solutions will be defined. It also comes with the size of the operator and the operational complexity an operator can sustain. But for sure, what is clear that we need an automation in security. Otherwise, it might be leading to human errors, as I was saying before. So,
and an operational burden for the operators.
For the operators, yes.
BT is in favor of a single model, considering TLS is a common denominator, irrespective of the models. Introducing Prince add further operational overheads.
Thank you, Sunil. Last question before we close the webinar today is related to IoT roaming. Mark, do you see any specific requirements for IoT roaming when it comes to 5G? And what's going to happen with older NB-IoT and LTE-M networks when 5G IoT roaming comes?
Well, I think that when you look to Cat M1 and near-band IoT, to provide the longevity that your enterprise customers want for water meters, energy meters, all kind of tracking applications, it has to move to 5G. We see the RFPs coming in that are requesting for even 20, 25 years of longevity. And that is always a very hard ask from operators. Just go around the globe, you have to do a roaming agreement, and now I have to ask all of those roaming operators to open their kimono to me and say, okay, this is my longevity for this kind of service. That is really interesting in the roaming arena world to have those discussions with your roaming partners. But that are the use cases that do drive this industry forward, and where we have to have an answer as this industry. How do we handle, and this is just longevity, this is not discussing SLAs between us as operators. So many elements still have to be resolved, which makes it for me very exciting to be in this industry, because actually where many people thought this is an old-fashioned industry, we are at forefront from many, many, many new things. And I think many new things will be coming that we even can think about.
Thank you very much, Mort. And I think that was a very good finish. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are getting to the end of this webinar. So let me thank you, Sunil, Mark, and Francesco, for your valuable insights. And I would like to also thank the audience for joining this webinar today. I hope you found it useful. We wish you a nice afternoon. Stay tuned and stay healthy. Back to the studio, Laura.
Thank you. Dear all, we are at the end of this webinar session, and I would like to thank our keynote speaker for this interesting presentation. our panelists for sharing their knowledge, and audience for participating and listening. This panel will be soon available on our CC Media portal. We are looking forward to welcoming you in both physical and virtual events this year. For more information, please visit our events portal. If you're interested in sponsoring one of our future branded webinars, contact CC team. For all updates and fresh content, follow us on our 4 social media channels. Also, subscribe to our Telegram news channel to receive exclusive invitations to our upcoming CC Webinar live sessions. Stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.